Hey y'all, what's up? So today I'm going to be reading a part 2 to the road trip. Alright, let's get it. Once upon a time, Brent, Haley, Kiara, the patroller, Alicia, Sierra, Sherry, Burl, and Mattis were traveling from West Virginia to Kentucky. While on the road, Burl noticed something in the woods that were next to the road. He pointed it out to everyone, and they didn't believe him. They thought he was just seeing things. But as they kept driving, the figure jumped out in front of the car. Sierra was still famous, and she was still a cop. Since the patroller was with them, they were extra safe. Anyways, the figure was keeping up with the speed of the car. It looked like a tall figure, but they weren't sure. Brent and Sierra are sitting in the back seat freaking out. Sierra wasn't as freaked out as Brent, but she still was scared. The figure eventually went back into the woods. At this time, they were in Tennessee. They had to go to Tennessee because they were visiting some of Sierra's family, and they live in Tennessee. Brent and Sierra got married on the Moore family farm in Tennessee. After spending 14 hours in Tennessee, they drove to Kentucky. While going out of Tennessee, they passed through Nashville. Everyone recognized Sierra and waved and cheered for her as they drove through town. Sierra waved back at everyone. After driving through Nashville, they headed to Kentucky. They were going to Kentucky because they had business down there. They had to help Sierra's manager build a couple things. Her manager is the type of person to bring people together that live so far away. He is a great person, either way. They were helping him build a couple sheds at his house. After building the 2 sheds, Brent, Haley, Kiara, the patroller, Alicia, Sierra, Burl, Sherry, and Mattis went back to West Virginia. But before they entered West Virginia, they went to Tennessee to visit with Sierra's family again. While they were visiting this time, Ruby was talking about getting married on the farm. Ruby has a boyfriend named Tyler. Tyler has already proposed to her, and they were thinking about marriage. Tyler is a great guy. He is a down-home country boy. He is sort of like Sierra in a way, but only that he is a boy. That is the only difference between Sierra and Tyler. Tyler loves Ruby. Tyler knows how to treat women because his mama raised him right. Ruby loves trucks even though she is a little bit city. They said that at the wedding was going to be held where Brent and Sierra's wedding was held. The date is March 15th, 2021. Tyler and Ruby are getting ready, their outfits ready, and the stuff set up. The reception was going to be held in the barn, just like Brent and Sierra's reception was. Ruby and Tyler have been dating for 5 years. Finally, marriage was brought up with their names in the same sentence. Tyler and Ruby have an age gap between them. Ruby is 19 and Tyler is 22. Not too extreme, but they still love each other. They already have a song picked out for their first dance song. That song is From the Ground Up by Dan and Shay. They're inviting the whole family, friends, and Sierra's famous friends. Most of the artists that are featured on Sierra's album, All of My Love, are going to be invited, and everyone in country music is coming to Ruby and Tyler's wedding. When they get to the first dance, Dan and Shay are going to perform From the Ground Up live with Ciara. Everything was planned perfectly. While they were setting up for the wedding, they were listening to Dirt Road Anthem by Jason Aldean, and Ruby had to stop because she had a breakdown. She had a lot of memories of the family and friends. She wished that Tyler was there, but those memories were made way before she met Tyler. Ruby loves this song just because of the music video. It brings back all the memories of her childhood. After her breakdown, she helped set up for the wedding. Soon, March 15th came around and everything was ready. All the guests came and everyone was dressed to impress. Dan and Shay showed up just like planned. Everyone in country music was there as well. Tyler was tearing up when he saw Ruby walking down the aisle. Ruby was dressed in the same dress that her sister wore. Ruby and Ciara looked similar to each other. They both looked good in the dress. Their mama wore the same dress to her wedding back in 1989. After the wedding, they all went to the barn to party. Dan, Shay, and Ciara sang From the Ground Up. Ruby and Tyler danced away. With Ciara singing with Dan and Shay, the song sounded better. It already sounds good with just Dan and Shay. But it just sounds a little better with Ciara. With Ciara's twang, it makes the song better. Ruby and Tyler liked this version of the song. They told them that they should re-record it and include Ciara on it. They said that their manager wouldn't let them. So they just sang and watched Ruby and Tyler dance. From the Ground Up is a song that is going to be turned into a book. It is very popular. It is a very popular wedding song. Ciara is writing the book and it will be published on April 12th, 2021. She's basically turning the song into a book. She has invited Dan and Shay over to her house to see how the book was coming along. After they sang, everyone was teary-eyed. Ruby and Tyler shook Dan and Shay's hands. Dan and Shay are their inspirations. Ruby hugged her sister for singing with them. After Ruby and Tyler danced, it was party time for everyone. They had DJ Jeff again. He played a lot of hip-hop, country, pop, etc. He played almost every genre of music. He even played Tracy Lawrence's new album, Made in America. Tracy Lawrence was even there. Ciara walked over to Tracy and hugged him. In no weekend, they performed together. All of Ciara's famous friends were proud of her. Even Willie Nelson was at the wedding. He was proud to see an artist that actually makes country music like country music used to be. Ruby and Ciara were on the floor the whole night. Tyler wasn't really into dancing that much. Later that night, the wedding was over. All the country artists left. The next morning, Brent Haley, Kiara, Ciara, the patroller, Alicia, Burl, Madison, Sherry went back to West Virginia. When they got to West Virginia, they were surprised to see the door to their hotel was unlocked. They knew they had locked it before they left about 4 days ago. But they just walked into the hotel room and didn't think anything of it. They were watching TV when an advertisement came on. It was for a show of Ciara's. Nothing too strange. There was a commercial after that one that was strange. The next commercial was of their hotel room. They were sitting on their beds watching television. The commercial was advertising the hotel that they were staying at, but for some reason they were filming in their hotel room. They saw the camera through the window. They shut the television off and the camera fell to the ground. The patroller and Ciara ran down to the front desk to complain. They threatened to arrest the desk clerks if they didn't tell them anything. Eventually, they arrested the employees at the hotel. After arresting them, they finally confessed. They told them that they were filming in the hotel and that they were filming inside certain rooms. Theirs happened to be one of them. All of them were outraged. The patroller and Sierra led them back into the hotel and unhandcuffed them. They let them get back to their job and politely said if they find that they are being filmed again, they would face worse consequences. The patrol and Sierra walked back to their room. They opened the door and everyone asked them what happened. Brent and Alicia were asking the most questions. They were worried the most. Brent always worries about Sierra being a cop. But she told him not to worry. But he still worries. Now that they are married, he worries a lot more about her. All of them were worried. They didn't feel safe in this room, so they asked to be sent to another room. The desk clerk immediately handed them another room key. They went to room 134 from 123. They didn't experience anything weird. They felt safer in the new room. A couple hours later, they all left to go to McDonald's. They all ordered a double Big Mac with fries. After getting their food, they went to the park so they could eat. Once they got to the park, they decided to split up. They wanted to eat separately. The patroller, Alicia, Sherry, Verl would go one way, while Brent, Sierra, Haley, Kiara, and Mattis went the other way. Luckily, both groups had a cop, so they were all safe. While Brent, Haley, Sierra, and Kiara were eating, they saw a creepy man watching them. They didn't think anything of it, until he started inching closer to them. He was staring at Sierra the most. The man was sitting on a bench right across from them. That's when Sierra got up and asked him what he was doing. He said he wasn't doing anything, but Sierra wasn't buying it. So she pulled out her wallet and showed him her badge. "If you don't tell me what you were doing, I'm going to arrest you," Sierra threatened. "Okay, I'm trying to stalk you and your friends," the man pleaded. Sierra arrested him. The patroller must have seen her arresting the man because he came running to help. All of them did. The patroller threw him in the trunk because they didn't have room in the car. They drove to the police station. Once they got there, they opened the trunk and pushed him into the station. The patroller threw him in the same cell as Brandon King. Brandon saw Sierra and he blew her a kiss. Sierra just turned her head. Brandon got up and walked to the cell door. He called for her, but she didn't move. He asked politely for her to come to his cell, but she still didn't move. So Brandon just sat back on his bed. Soon the patroller and Sierra walked back out to the car. The patroller was doing some paperwork. Sierra was just sitting at her desk on the phone because she didn't have anything to do. Once they got back to the car, they went back to the hotel. When they got to the hotel, they noticed that there were some shady people standing by the door. They didn't get out for a moment. Eventually, they got the courage to walk to the door. The people were moving to the door as if they weren't going to let them in. The patroller and Sierra showed them their badges and the people backed away from the door. "We thought so," the patroller and Sierra said together. They walked in and walked to their room. When they got to their room, they noticed that there was a strange man at the other end of the hall. He was walking closer to them, so Sherry opened the door and they rushed in. Everyone except the patroller and Sierra. They sat on a bench right next to the door. They watched the man as he inched closer to them. Once he got within 2 feet of them, the patroller and Sierra pulled out their wallets to show him their badges. This caught the man's attention and he turned around and walked back down the hall. The patroller and Sierra went in their room. They sat on their beds and watched the television. Brent and Sierra were kissing while listening to music. They have a separate room than the others. Their room had an extra bedroom. And Brent and Sierra took that one. They were listening to some Kenny Rogers, and they were sleeping by the time the noon rolled around. The patroller woke them up because they needed to see a news report on TV. The report was about Brandon King. He broke out of jail and he was coming for them. Sierra was in shock. The report was accurate. The reporter said that Brandon has someone else with him. His name is Chris Williams. Chris and Sierra dated before Brandon and Sierra did. Sierra grabbed her .30-06 and loaded it. The patroller loaded his AR-15. About an hour later, they saw Brandon's car pull into the parking lot. Sierra, the patroller, and Brent ran downstairs. They were met with Chris and Brandon. Chris walked to Sierra and kissed her forehead. Sierra grabbed his arm and she broke it in half. Brandon did the same thing. She broke his arm too. After that, Brandon and Chris just walked back out to their car. The patroller and Sierra ran after them. By the time they got out the door, Brandon and Chris were already on the road. Brent wanted to go with them, so Sierra let him come along. Sierra pulled out of the parking lot and chased after them. Sierra loves going fast, so she was driving. Brandon and Chris were already very far ahead of them. But since Sierra was driving, they caught up to him very fast. It took Sierra about 2.5 seconds to catch up with the boys. Soon Sierra was tail grabbing them. She hit them in the rear a couple times so they would pull over. The boys pulled over and Sierra got out to arrest them. The patrol and Brent switched seats. Brent got in the front seat and the patroller got the back. Sierra threw the boys into the back seat. Before they left, Sierra pushed their car off the cliff by hitting it. She drove off like a funeral hearse delivering a body. They drove to the police station within 20 minutes. It usually would have taken them about 35 minutes from where they were at. But she was driving very fast. Everyone back at the hotel was worried about them because they had been gone for an hour and a half. Once they got to the station, Sierra texted Sherry telling them that they were alright. Sherry was thankful that she got Sierra's text. Sierra adopted Sherry as her mother after her real mother died from cardiac arrest. After dealing with Brandon and Chris, they went back to the hotel. Once they got back to the hotel, they went to Grafton, West Virginia for one of Sierra's concerts. Grafton is about an hour away from Philippi. They got there in 45 minutes because they were running late. Sierra was performing with Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, Luke Combs, Dana Shea, and Jesse V. Sierra, Jason, Luke Bryan, and Luke Combs, Dan Shea, and Jesse are great friends. Jesse's sister, Mandy V, will make an appearance on stage too. It was going to be fun. Some of Sierra's family members, Brent, Haley, Sherry, Verl, Kiara, the patroller, and Alicia, are going to do stuff backstage. After they got there, the show started. Sierra started the show off with one of her own songs. The song that she sang first was Better in a Honky Tonk. Everyone loves this song. Then everyone walked out on stage. Jason, Luke Bryan, Luke Combs, Dan Shea, and Jesse were all happy to see Sierra. Even when Mandy walked out on stage a while later, she was happy to see everyone, especially Sierra. Everyone loves Sierra. The one person that loves her the most is obviously Brent, because they are married and they love each other to death. While Sierra was forming from the ground up with the others, Brent walked out on stage so they could dance together. Sierra and Brent were being filmed by everyone. They are one of the biggest couples in country music. Her buddy, Earl Dibbles Jr., even commented on their marriage. They are the cutest couple in country music. I don't really say these kind of things, but they are very cute together, Earl Dibbles Jr. commented. Earl and Sierra have known each other for years. Granger Smith discovered Sierra and he introduced her to Earl. Ever since then, they have been inseparable. Granger Smith and Earl will be making an appearance on stage too. Earl, Granger, Brent, Haley, Kiara, Sierra, Sherry, and Burl were friends for a while now. After Granger and Earl came out on stage, the show was over. This show was the shortest show that Sierra has done so far. It only lasted about 45 minutes. Her shows usually last about 2 hours. But they remembered that they had to do something else that night. Earl and Granger hung out with them for a while. Sierra had a doctor appointment. Sierra's appointment was for her diabetes. Brent, Earl, and one of Brent's best friends, Paige, are her moral support. They were always there for her, and she was always there for them. Paige still likes Sierra as a girlfriend, even though Sierra and Brent are married. Paige still likes her. Earl, Brent, Paige, and Sierra drove by themselves. They left the others at the hotel. That was good because they ended up staying the night at the hospital because they wanted to monitor Sierra's blood sugars all night. Brent was worried about Sierra because of her blood sugars. They were a little bit higher than her normal range. Her normal range is 70 to 110, but it's been running about 130 to 140. Brent, Paige, Earl, and Sierra were sleeping all together. Earl and Paige were sleeping on the one couch. Brent was sleeping on the chair, and Sierra was sleeping in the hospital bed. Brent was checking on Sierra every now and then just to make sure she was all right. Then after morning came, they were all out of the hospital an hour after waking up. They got breakfast at the hospital. Sierra got her blood sugars checked one last time, and they got showers and left. Once they got back to the hotel, once they got back on the road from Akron, Ohio, they went back to Philippi. Earl, Paige, Sierra, and Brent were all jamming to some country music. Luckily, they had American flags and Trump flags on the back of their truck because they got into a Trump train. A Trump train is basically a long line of cars, trucks, vans, SUVs, and bikes to ride around in a few cities to support President Donald Trump. They saw a lot of people they know. Even Sherry, Verl, Haley, Kiara, the patroller, and Alicia were in the train. They saw Sierra's grandmother's son in his jacked up Dodge Megacab. They pulled in front of Steve, which is the owner of the Megacab Dodge, and blew some of their diesel smoke for him. He was surprised to see them get into the Trump train. He texted Sierra asking her what she and her buddies were doing in the Trump train. So she explained how they were coming back from the hospital, got mixed up in the train. Steve loves Sierra to death. If she got hurt, Steve would be one of the first people who would help. They cruised through Canton, Akron, Malvern, Minerva, and Carrollton, Ohio. They found out that the official Trump train was canceled, so they made their own. They still cruised through these cities. They were having fun, and that's all that matters. There was Steve, a couple of his buddies, a few other people, Haley, Kiara, Brent, Earl, Paige, Sierra, Sherry, Verl, the patroller, and Alicia were on the unofficial Trump train. After they finished the train, they all went back to New Philadelphia to see Diana. Diana is Sierra's grandma. After visiting for a while, Brent, Sierra, Haley, Earl, Paige, Kiara, Sherry, Alicia, Verl, and the patroller headed back to Philippi. It took 10 hours from New Philadelphia to Philippi. Steve also went with them. Sierra, Brent, Earl, Paige, and Paige rode with Steve. Steve, Sierra, Brent, Paige, and Earl pulled off at a Bell Stores to get gas and some snacks. They still had 5 more hours ahead of them. The others kept on trucking. They didn't plan on stopping. After Steve, Sierra, Brent, Earl, and Paige got snacks, drinks, and gas, they headed back to Philippi. They didn't know that there was another Trump train in Philippi, so they got there just in time. They jumped in line and drove from Philippi to Weirton and back. The others just went back to the hotel. They didn't want to be a part of another train. That was fine with Steve, Sierra, Earl, and Brent. Earl, Brent, and Paige. After they drove around supporting Trump, they all went back to the hotel. Once they got there, they saw a lot of mysterious cars sitting in the parking lot. Sierra called the patroller to tell him to be on lookout. "Alright guys, I'm going to investigate these cars," Sierra whispered to the others. "I'll be right behind you," Brent said. Alright, the patroller should be down in a second," Sierra replied. "Okay, he's here," Sierra said. So the three investigated the cars, while Steve, Earl, and Paige stayed in the truck. Sierra gestured for all of them to come to the last car on one side of the hotel. "Get an ambulance," Sierra yelled. Steve called an ambulance. They got there within 5 minutes. They put the body on a stretcher and wheeled it into the back of the ambulance. The ambulance drove off. "Wow, you're pretty good at your job, guys," Paige said. "Well, we've only been doing it since 2004, the patroller bragged. "Wow," Paige mumbled. They went into the hotel and told the desk clerk to make posters about what happened and put them on every occupied hotel room. This is how Sierra and the patroller get information out to people. It took about 30 minutes to make 150 posters. The patroller, Sierra, Steve, Brent, Earl, and Paige delivered the posters to every room. There is one room that is forbidden from everyone. It was room 132. No one really knows why it was not occupied. Everyone except Sierra. Sierra knew exactly why. She never told the story to anyone, but she thought it was time to tell it. Sierra, her mother, and father were staying in that room one night. There was someone hiding in the bathroom at night. One night, the person killed her parents. Her parents' ghosts haunt that room and take out their revenge on anyone that stays in that room. So that's why that room is blocked off from everyone. The end. That was the road trip part 2. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Have a good rest of your day. Love y'all.